The Srixon ZX5 MK2. This is the new release from Srixon, and the one before this was arguably the best iron I've ever tested. So my original review of the ZX5 that was released about 2 years ago was one of my most popular videos, and for a reason that I understand, because it was a great iron and you guys were probably searching for it to see if it's an iron that you would like. Now, I fitted a lot of people into that original iron and those people absolutely love it, and I was that close to actually going into it myself, but I went more Z-forged ZX7 for the 5 iron. Well, now there's a new one. It's the ZX5 MK2. So I'm going to sit in the studio, I'm going to get some numbers, I'm going to get some data, and while I do that, I'm going to head out to Whitsand Bay Golf Club. I'm going to test these golf clubs out on the course. I have the 5 iron, the 7 iron and the pitching wedge. I'm going to play 3 holes with a putter and see what I can score. So first hole here is the 16th that I'm going to play. It's a 351 yard par 4. The wind's off the left, so in theory this should be probably a 5 iron and a 7 iron to get there, but it's first shots of the day, haven't warmed up. I'm going straight through those trees over there. Let's see how this gets on. This is a pretty strong 5 iron, so I kind of would hope it would go around 200 yards distance as normal. So we got one away, but it wasn't the greatest strike in the world. In between the 2 banks, it probably has left us about a 7 iron in, which is good. Feels and sounds great off the face after a first hit. A little bit heavy, so I didn't get like a great contact on it. But what it did is it got the ball in the air, which is exactly what I'd want these kind of clubs to do. 165 yards, so not the greatest, about 190 yards, but it is a little bit into wind. So this is actually probably about a perfect 7 iron for me to get into the green from. Technology in the ZX5, different to the old version. This has now got what's called a main frame, and what that is at the back of these clubs there's like sort of milled out cavities and grooves and things like that, just to give maximum flex at impact. And all that's designed to do is to give you more ball speed. That's what all these companies are doing. I want ball speed, so how can I get more ball speed? And that's what they're designing to do with this club, with that main frame technology at the back. All those different bits are designed to just give you better ball speed across the whole of the face. Right, I am in the rough, wind is off the left, so I'm going to aim left side of this green with a 7 iron, try and get it hopefully on the green, but in and around it, and give myself a wedge and a putt, and hopefully walk off with a par. That's a good strike. I don't know if it's all of it though. I don't think I've got enough. No, just short. Still a little bit early in the morning for me, so just catching everything a little bit heavy, but what it did is it still got up in the air and it still flew a pretty decent distance. Just gives me an up and down to do. So we have come up just a little bit short, but that gives me a great excuse to give a go with this pitching wedge, just chipping around the green. Now, it's really important with pitching wedges that if you get the opportunity to test them, you do test chipping and just little pitch shots around the green, because the chip and run shot with a pitching wedge is so underrated. So many people just revert straight to loft, like they want the most lofted club from this, where actually you've got to go up a bit of a bank and it then banks from left to right. And actually a ball on the ground running has got more chance of going in the hole than a ball in the air. Pretty big sole, which will be good for turf interaction, just to sweep that ball off the top of the turf. Pitched it a little bit too far, but that is a great shot. I actually hit it into the slope and I didn't mean to do that, but what that did is just killed it a little bit. But as far as pitching wedges go, it just glides off the surface. It just takes a little tiny little divot out of the ground. It just slides across it, and that's what we've got with this Tour VT sole. So this Tour VT sole is slightly shaped a little bit like this. And what that's designed to do is, as the club goes into the ground, it's designed to get it out of the ground as quick as possible, and that's what the turf interaction is. So it gives you a better strike. So as you go in, hit the ball, it's going to come out a lot better, and that's what this Tour VT sole is all designed for. Now, all Srixon irons have it. The ZX5, the ZX7, my Z-forged have them, and I believe the new Z-forged 2 also have them. So it's a technology that Srixon have stuck by for a long time, and actually it works. Or does it work? It's really hard to tell, but for me personally, who have used the Tour VT sole for quite a while, I find the turf interaction actually pretty good. So level par through 1 with the ZX5. On a hole I would normally hit driver wedge. I do birdie this hole quite often, but par is a good score on this hole, so to be able to do that with just irons is fantastic really. So I've got about 250-ish yards in, so a really good hit off the tee, so it's definitely going to be another 5-iron, and then hopefully just give me a wedge in. But the last thing to talk about when it comes to the Srixon irons is what's called progressive groove. So 3-iron to 7-iron has the sort of groove pattern which is quite spread out compared to what comes afterwards, and that's designed just to give you more consistent launch spin characteristics with those longer irons. Whereas when you go down to 8 to pitching wedge and then gap wedge and so on, the grooves are a lot closer together, and I'll put up 2 pictures side by side now to show you the difference. And as you can see in the pitching wedge, the grooves are a lot closer, and what that's designed to do is give you more controllability with the spin. So whereas these are spread out to give you more control and more consistency, the more grooves are designed to give you more consistent spin, more controllability around the greens, because that's what you want when you get into those type of irons. So just want to hit a 5-iron up there, give myself a wedge in, try and give myself a full wedge if I can help it. That's a really good hit again, so easy to get off the turf, just a great height. Yeah, like, and you look at the little divot, it's just a slight divot in there. It's not digging in, so that sole is getting in and coming straight back out again. So pitching wedge left in, 120 yards, just out of pitching wedge range, but try and keep it below the hole, somewhere on the green. Yep, just like that, just below the hole, gives me an uphill putt for birdie. Always repair your pitch marks, ladies and gents. Hardest bit is trying to find them sometimes. So got this for birdie, and like I said, it's not the easiest green in the world to read. This is going to break off the right, but always want to leave yourself an uphill putt on this hole. If you go up there and in the summer and you put down to this, you're back down here. It is not an easy green to read, so you always want to be below the hole here. So little putt for birdie. Oh, just broke at the end. You see how, well, you probably didn't from there, but it's a tap-in par. We will take that. So far I've been really impressed with these irons, so I'm going to do a short par 3 next, see if I can finish off level par. But before we do that, let's get back in the studio, let's look at some numbers of these ZX5 and see how they perform spin, distance and launch. Average ball speed 115.6, but these last 2 I sort of went after to see what I could get out of it potential, but sort of all of these are sort of averaging around 113, 114. Launch angle of 20, probably a little bit too high. I'd probably want it around 19, but very consistent, which is something I loved about the original ZX5. Average backspin 5.2. That's where the ZX5 lets me down a little bit, is on the backspin. You know, there's one at 4.5, and the highest I got was 5.4. You know, I'd want that into the 6,000s. I probably want another 1,000 revs of spin on it, but it is slightly stronger loft than I'm used to, so you've got to take that into account. It's arguably around about sort of where my 6-iron is for loft, there or thereabouts. So, you know, it's there or thereabouts. Peak height 33 yards, not amazing, but it's acceptable. And then an average distance of 166, which is not too bad because my 7-iron that I currently have, granted it's an inch longer, so these are just standard length. Mine's an inch longer because of my height. So my current 7-iron goes 165. So for distance wise, it's definitely where I would want it to be. And as a descent angle of 47.4, it's definitely working for what I would want a 7-iron to do, coming in at a decent angle and also a decent distance. The only thing that's putting me off this club really is the spin. So impressive numbers in the studio. You know, it's not flying miles. It was a pretty cold day in the studio that day, so I wasn't swinging my fastest, but the numbers were still great. It still performed fantastic. So all in all, I thought it's the consistency that I like about these Srixon irons. They've always felt great. Out here on the course, they definitely still feel great. The ZX5 is it a change from the last one? It's really difficult to say. Anyway, let's give this a go. 120 yard par 3. Let's get it on the green. Let's 2-putt. Let's finish level par. I may change the way I play this golf course a little bit because I am driver everywhere. Well, maybe not off this tee. Right, pitching wedge, 120 yards. Right down the throat of it. Don't know if I got all of it. It's definitely on the green, but I didn't get all of it, unfortunately. Toey, but what happened then is it still flew pretty well. It still got up in the air, as you'll see with the ball tracer. All it did is I had that little drop off on distance, so that's probably gone around about, I don't know, 110 yards. So getting it out the toe, there was a little bit of a drop off, I did see that. But what happens, it still flew straight, it still got in the direction I was aiming. So you can see here, the drop off, it landed just back there and went forward, whereas a proper strike would have got to the back of this green. I mean, that's a difficult pin to get to at the best of times because you go too long, rolls over the back, and in the summer, these greens are very, very fast. Winter, you can definitely ping them a little bit easier. So this drop off here is what I would have expected from that strike, so performing exactly as expected. Let's see if we can walk off here with a par, and then let's go back into the studio and give our final conclusions. That's tracking. That's tracking. Oh, that's a great putt. So 3 clubs and a putter, 5 iron, 7 iron, and pitching wedge with a ZX5. 3 holes, finished level par. I said with the previous ZX5s that these are some of the best irons, if not the best irons for mid-handicappers. The ZX4 is probably there for the higher handicappers, but if you're sort of 18 to coming into sort of single figures, the ZX5 is a fantastic iron. I said the last one was probably the best, and I think this one is going to be even better and even harder to beat. They feel fantastic out here on the course. The ball flight is absolutely superb with this 5 iron, especially into wind, and the feel and touch around the greens with that pitching wedge is just there. It is absolutely just there. So if you're thinking of getting the ZX5, absolutely go and test it. I'm going to head back into the studio, give you my final thoughts on the ZX5, but for the time being, from Whitsand Bay, I'll see you in the studio. So all in all, what do I think about the ZX5? Just like the last one, I absolutely love it, and I could definitely play this because of its consistency when it comes to spin and launch and distance, but also its playability for something that's like, it's in that game improvement bracket, but I definitely wouldn't put it in there myself. But it's, you know, it's not the ZX7, which is the player's iron. It's got a big enough sole that it's got great turf interaction. Down at the ball, it looks superb. It feels great. It sounds great. Like, I think Srixon have some of the best feeling irons, and the ZX5 does not let me down with that. It just feels superb. It's arguably something that I could definitely go into. Get away from the blades, get more into these sort of forgiving irons, and give myself a better chance of playing better golf, because the ZX5, like the last one, is going to be arguably the best iron I test this year, and it's the first iron I've tested because I was so excited to use it. But I'd love to know what you think. Let me know down in the comments, did you play the old ZX5 and are you thinking of coming into the new one? If you are, I don't see a great deal of difference between the old one and the new one, I'll be perfectly honest. It's not something that I think you should like rush out to get into the new one if you're in the old one, because the old one is just as good. But if you're a few generations past and you're thinking of getting into new irons, give Srixon a chance, because they make some of the best feeling irons around, and that is guaranteed. It's not just my opinion either. So let me know down in the comments. If you do like this video, please give it a thumbs up. And as always, if you are new to the channel and you've not yet subscribed, please do click that subscribe button down below. It means the world to me and it helps this channel grow. But until next time, I'll see you soon.